We've hit Prime Day, the first big sale event since the launch of the RTX 50 series and RX 9000 series GPUs. But what are the best GPU values, and should you buy now or should you wait? Welcome back to PC Builder, I'm Jason. We'll take a look at the best graphics card to buy in July 2025 and cover every budget level, from the best budget graphics card all the way up to the best 1440p graphics card and best 4K graphics cards in 2025. And we'll look at the upcoming graphics card launches and sales like Prime Day, so you can get the best value GPU right now. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like so it really helps out the channel, and of course subscribe for more cool PC content. With that, let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows licenses and that terrible Activate Windows watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key and get a Windows 10 or 11 OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 30% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom! Windows is fully licensed for a crazy low price. And they have Microsoft Office licenses too. Use the links in the video description. Before we jump into Prime Day sales and current GPU pricing, let's quickly cover the new GPU launches with the RX 9060 XT 16GB and 8GB versions and the RTX 5050 8GB. The RX 9060 XT models launched on June 5th. Now, in terms of performance for the 16GB version, my previous numbers were very close. And in fact, the RX 9060 XT 16GB performs almost identically to the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB, while the 8GB version performs very similarly to the 8GB RTX 5060 Ti and substantially faster than the RTX 5060 8GB. From a supply standpoint, the launch was the best this generation, with MSRP models available even several hours after launch, and that pricing has largely held, as we'll see in just a moment. Now on to the RTX 5050 8GB, which NVIDIA just announced at a $249 MSRP and supposedly launching in late July, though we expect models to actually be available as soon as they hit store shelves in early July, possibly as early as July 1st, and the RTX 5050 laptops have already gone on sale as soon as the announcement dropped. The RTX 5050 desktop version, it's basically a cut down of RTX 5060 with slower GDDR6 RAM. In fact, its 2560 CUDA cores is 33% fewer than the RTX's 3840 CUDA cores, and I'm expecting performance to be about 40% slower overall. We'll see how it stacks up to the competition in our best GPU under $300 coming up later in the video. Let's jump into current GPU pricing, starting with AMD Radeon graphics cards, and we've seen some significant price reductions continue, but stock remains low on many upper mid-range GPU models. Starting with the RX 9070 XT 16GB, we see prices continue to fall to $699 for the currently cheapest model in the ASRock 9070 XT Steel Legend. And if you want a black model, you can either readily pick up the Gigabyte Gaming OC model for $729, which we have, or the Asus Prime RX 9070 XT OC is coming in and out of stock for around $720. Now the big change here, you no longer need to purchase a combo deal to get the most affordable RX 9070 XT GPUs, which it's welcome news for many, but it's still 17% over its $599 MSRP. Moving over to the RX 9070 non-XT, and pricing, it's a bit all over the place. Now I've listed the price at $599, which was the popular Sapphire Pulse version that's been available at Newegg for the past several weeks at that price. But of course, at the time of filming, bad luck, that model seems to have sold out, or it's at least out of stock, and the next cheapest one up is the Sapphire Nitro Plus. Now that's a high-end premium OC model at $649. Of course, I do expect more stock for the Sapphire Pulse model, so I am keeping the $599 price in the chart for now, but for comparison purposes later, just know it could range between $599 and $649. Then we drop all the way down with the RX 9060 XT 16GB at $369 for the cheapest model, the ASRock Challenger, just $20 more than its MSRP about a month after the launch. That's pretty impressive, and it means that either AMD had an absolute ton of stock for the launch, or demand's very weak, or maybe something in between. Now the 8GB model selling at MSRP for $299, and there are tons of them out there. I'm just assuming that just like the RTX 5060 8GB, gamers have gotten the not enough VRAM message on it. Moving over to the NVIDIA GPU pricing in July 2025, and we see some pretty significant pricing improvements, not just for the mid-range and lower-end RTX 50 graphics cards, but also for some older graphics card stalwarts. Now, starting at the top with the RTX 5090. Now, while the price says it's gone up by 5%, that's just the cheapest model. The situation is actually improving, as the $2,600 model last month, it was the only one really under $3,000, and now we have most models between $2,700 and $2,800. So the median price continues to drop. Now, obviously, it's still 38% over its likely very fake $2,000 MSRP, but price tracking is very similar to what we saw for the RTX 4090, so that's good news. The GPU I just can't figure out is the RTX 5080, which is stubbornly sat at just under $1,400 for several months without any movement. Now, I did dig into this a little deeper, and I now believe that's because the laptop RTX 5090 uses a cut down version of the GB203 die. That's the same GPU die as the RTX 5080 desktop version. That what we're seeing is basically a prioritization of ultra high-end laptop RTX 5090 GPUs over the 5080 desktop. Now, it's just a guess on my part, but it would explain what's going on with the RTX 5080 desktop GPU. Meanwhile, the very popular RTX 5070 Ti GPU, while increasing slightly in the lowest priced model available, has seen median pricing fall as more basic models hit the store shelves. At least one of the lower cost models among the Zotac Solid RTX 5070 Ti, Gigabyte Windforce RTX 5070 Ti, and MSI Shadow models are now generally available for between $825 and $840. Meanwhile, the RTX 5070 has hit its $549 MSRP, although currently a lot of the models are using some unusual promotional pricing from Newegg to get there. Now, it seems that there's a lot of GPUs currently receiving large promotional gift cards when purchasing the RTX 5070 12GB at Newegg. This even includes a lot of high-end models like the Asus TUF Gaming model, but again, this discount is in the form of a gift card. It's not a price reduction. There is one MSRP model that is actually available at Best Buy in the US. That's the PNY RTX 5070 12GB with no special deals required. Meanwhile, the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB finally hit its $429 MSRP, and all it took, AMD launching a competing GPU in the RX 9060 XT 16GB for a $349 MSRP. Funny how they couldn't get the price under $480 until the card had competition. That's why consumers always benefit from competition. The rest of the 50 series pricing remains essentially the same, but we do see the RTX 3060 12GB also with a nice price drop to $299. Again, funny how the timing coincides with the launch of competition from AMD. Quick look over at Intel GPU pricing, and great news. The Arc B570 10GB has seen a new lower cost model available from Sparkle, so it's now down to $259. Meanwhile, no change for the Arc B580, which really could use it up against stiffer competition at $299. And unfortunately, the supply of sub $200 A-series GPUs has once again dried up, which isn't good news for ultra budget gamers out there. Let's play everyone's favorite game. Should you buy now or should you wait? In particular, we've got the big Amazon Prime Day sale and of course all the competing sales from other retailers, along with 4th of July sales here in the US. Now, Prime Day is going to be 4 days long this year, starting on Tuesday, July 8th and going through Friday, July 11th at midnight. As usual, Newegg is launching their fantastic sale and Best Buy is launching their Black Friday in July sale, and both of those start the day earlier on Monday, July 7th, and they go all the way through Sunday, July 13th. Walmart's big sale starts on the same day as Amazon's does, Tuesday, July 8th, but it does go through Sunday, July 13th. Now, Newegg is already slapping fantastic price protection on a lot of its products and deals, which means that if you buy something with price protection at Newegg during this time, and it goes lower in price later, they will automatically refund you the difference on July 22nd. You don't need to do anything for it. Best Buy has price protection as well, but it's not quite as good and they don't match Newegg prices. I'll leave links to both programs so you can get the full details. Of course, we're going to be posting the best deals that we can find leading up to and of course during Prime Day, as well as the extended sales. So follow us on social media at PC Builder Jason. We post deals on Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, and of course right here on YouTube in the post tab. So what kind of discounts can you expect on these sales? Well, generally the discounts are very, very good for every component in a PC except the GPU. Honestly, GPUs tend to be relatively low margin for the board partners themselves. So the only real discounts are going to come from AMD, NVIDIA, and obviously Intel as well in this case. NVIDIA tends to be super tight with those discounts. Don't expect big ones. Sometimes it's only about $10 or $15. Meanwhile, AMD does often make it rain. However, This year might be a little bit different with all the craziness in the US. Now, one critical thing to understand is that high demand products like GPUs, they almost always sell out very quickly. Sometimes they don't even make it to the big sale themselves. Now, while this is the worst on Black Friday, with most of the GPU stock selling out completely in early Black Friday deals, my concern is this year, with GPU stock being so thin in the United States, that the low-cost models are going to sell out very fast. So my advice here, with prices at fairly reasonable levels for every GPU under about $1,000, if you want a GPU now and you want a good deal, I'd probably buy early rather than late. Meanwhile, RTX 5080 buyers, you might just want to wait and see if you can get a deal, knowing you can still pay the really silly $1,400 price later. I should also mention that I usually cover GPU game bundles, but right now there just aren't any ongoing ones, though there may be some announced in early July, and if they are, I'll leave a note down in the pinned comment. Starting off with the best graphics card under $200 in July 2025. Well, let's call it around $200. Now, I'm still working on bringing back the used GPU section for this category, and I just want to give you an update. I did run into some scaling issues in the GPU comparisons, so it's not quite ready just yet. Unfortunately, for the most popular used models that I previously recommended, because I did go on eBay and check all the prices, they are now quite old. So like the RX 580 8GB and the GTX 1070 8GB, they're now pushing 8 years old. And most of the used ones have been heavily mined on, often in not the greatest conditions. So my current used advice is just get something in the 20 series or newer, or for AMD, maybe the 6000 series or newer. Now, you generally save about $50 over buying a new equivalent, but you'll lose out on a warranty, and honestly, if the GPU dies in 3 months, you're kind of out of luck. So my best advice is to grab the RX 6600 8GB, brand new with a warranty, for about $220. Moving over to the best graphics card under $300 in July 2025, and while there's an argument for many of these GPUs, depending on your exact budget, I would strongly recommend, if you can, to move up to the best value GPU under $400, as the value in that bracket is insanely good right now. But if your budget's closer to $250, I do like the Arc B570 10GB at $259, as long as we're playing at 1440p minimum, and we've got a Ryzen 5000 or i5 12th gen or newer CPU because of the CPU overhead issues for the Arc cards. If you're wondering about the RTX 5050, it's at least $50 too expensive. Even at $200, it would be a little more than an RX 6600 8GB replacement GPU. We've had that graphics card for ages now. Moving up, I'm not in favor of spending nearly $300 or more on an 8GB GPU in 2025, as I expect these to rapidly start becoming obsolete in the near future for quality gaming experiences. That makes the Arc B580 12GB an automatic choice here if $299 is as far as your wallet goes. But the same caveats remain as with the Arc B570. If you just don't want to listen to me about VRAM, fine, then the RX 9060 XT 8GB should be substantially faster than the RTX 5060 8GB, though there are very few high-quality reviews yet of the RX 9060 XT 8GB that compare these two GPUs head-to-head in games that still run okay with 8 gigs of VRAM. Moving up to the best graphics card under $400 US, and this is the value tier. I've left in the best in the previous tier for comparison, and I've also added the RTX 5060 Ti 16GB at $429, though that model is low stock and the next one up is $450, so keep that in mind. The RX 9060 XT just destroys everything at $369 right now. With similar rasterization performance, I just can't see spending an extra $60, maybe even $90 just for DLSS 4. That's a 2TB NVMe SSD difference in price at the high end, and who couldn't use another 2 terabytes of storage for essentially free? If the lower cost models of the 9060 XT do sell out, and you're looking at closer to like a $40 price difference, I could possibly see switching over to the 5060 Ti 16GB, but under no circumstances should you buy the 8GB 5060 Ti. This is also a category where I probably just wouldn't wait for the sales, and I would just grab the cheapest RX 9060 XT 16GB model as I could, because these are probably likely to sell out as we get through Prime Day. Let's move over to the best graphics card under $600 US. I've also left in the best GPUs from the previous tier. The RTX 5070 12GB, it's substantially faster than the previous tier, as is the RX 9070 16GB GPU. But remember, the $599 9070 model, it may not be available. I think 12 gigabytes of VRAM, it's fine for now, but honestly, it might age poorly with the new consoles coming out with more VRAM in 2026. As I think the current gen consoles being essentially limited to 12 gigabytes, that's what's keeping 12 gigabyte VRAM GPUs in the game right now. Now that's an argument for the RX 9070, which is also just a faster GPU. At this performance level, I don't consider ray tracing yet, as the RTX 5070, it already runs out of VRAM in one of the few titles that is transformative, that's Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and the RX 9070 ray tracing performance, it lags in some key titles, though it's quite good in others. Moving over to the best graphics card under $800 in July 2025, and these really are the best 1440p GPUs in the mid-range right now given current pricing. Now I am going to include the RTX 5070 Ti here at $840, but that price gap, it's getting downright massive, and it probably isn't even a fair comparison at the nearly $140 price goal for the RX 9070 XT 16GB. And by the way, that's almost the same price difference as their respective MSRPs, $150. And that's what led a lot of reviewers to heavily recommend the RX 9070 XT at launch. Now to me, the 9070 XT is superior if you don't care about high-end ray tracing and if you mostly care about getting the best value. FSR 4, it's a real home run for AMD, though obviously DLSS 4 has superior game adoption, but AMD seems to really be cranking on that one to catch up. But that price difference, it's massive right now, as you can almost buy a Ryzen 9600X CPU for that price difference alone. So if you're building a new system, it's just way too much value to pass up. If you want high quality ray tracing, the RTX 5070 Ti, it is the best value GPU. And I continue to state it is the true 80 class GPU of the 50 series. As long as you have the extra money and it doesn't hurt your build somewhere else or your PC upgrade somewhere else, no one's going to fault you for picking up the 5070 Ti. Now we're on to the best graphics card in 2025 in July for any price. Once again, it's basically, do you want to buy the RTX 5090 or not? Now the median price, it continues to improve, and now we've got a number of models between $2,700, $2,800-ish. Instead of just one model at lower price coming in and out of stock near that price. The 5090, it gives you 50% more performance. We're talking basically another level here. And you'll have the fastest GPU on planet Earth until the RTX 6090 comes out probably in 2027. In terms of the 5080, I absolutely still hate its value. The cheaper the RX 9070 XT gets means that it's now half the price for 85% of the performance. It's just crazy to think about. Really, nobody should be buying the RTX 5080 at $1,400 right now. Now, all these graphics cards are linked down in the video description along with the best current GPU values that we can find during sales. And we'll keep updating all those sales throughout July as deals drop. So check out those links for current pricing and availability in your region. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like or subscribe for more cool PC content like, did you check out our PC mistakes to avoid on Amazon Prime Day? Don't make these PC mistakes upgrading or building a new system on Amazon Prime Day. Check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.